So welcome back to the channel, y'all. And I want to be honest with you. After the A53 disappointment of last year, that mediocre just snore fest of just lag and it was a terrible, terrible device for everyday users that actually did productivity on their phone. At least for me, it was. I was skeptical about the A54. They released it way overpriced in the prepaid market, about $2 something for a new line, and we all knew it wasn't worth it. Recently, metrobytmobile dropped the price to $20 for porting for this phone, $49 for a new number if you're like adding a line or starting a new service. I started new service, added a line. That current number is what I'm using. And, you know, I'm going to talk to you about my experience with the A54 5G coming from an iPhone XR. So, again, a 5-year-old phone versus one it came out in 2023. With that being said, let's talk about it. Now, I did get an outer box on this phone, $64.99, which is way overpriced in my opinion. But if you register it online, then the phone will be absolutely, the case is a lifetime warranty for as long as you have the phone, if you actually register it. Now, this does have a front fingerprint, as you can see, popped right up on YouTube. Right here, this is the phone in all its glory. So what we have here is a 6.4 inch 50 megapixel, 6 gigs of RAM, 5,000 millihertz battery phone, which right there sounds pretty good so far, but there are some good, there is some bad, and I gotta be completely honest with you. I had an overall pretty decent experience with this phone, especially with gaming and just uploading videos with the 5G UC or 5G or even 4G LTE. It all works very well with Android devices. I have no issue with that. But anyway, what we have down here is the charger port, of course, USB-C. Now, it's not going to be too sharp. I am recording on an older Android phone. The A20 is actually recording this video. I no longer have my iPhone. It's a long story. But volume rocker is right here on the right-hand side. I always preferred it to be on the left. I don't know why all Android phones, for the most part, have this, but it is what it is. You do have your lock button right here. Unfortunately, it's just a tiny button that you can get confused on the volume rockers, especially if you're coming from iPhones, because the lock button on the iPhone is practically the size, but it's still not bad. No other physical buttons whatsoever. You do have the SIM tray up here if you're able to see it. I have a 256 gig memory card inside. I think it goes up to a terabyte in terms of what it can support, but at least 256 is without a doubt been confirmed by me anyway. Decent phone, Glastic, or I like to call it glass, but it's actually plastic on the back. So it has that premium look of the Galaxy series. If you remember, the A series had the look of the current Galaxy phones, and the S series kind of stole it and put the A series on the back burner. And, you know, here we are today. So with that being said, let's talk about the screen. Let me go ahead and brighten this up for you guys real fast. Oh, just so you know, there will be timestamps, of course. So this is, in a sense, an unboxing right here. So right here, it's not the highest, but I didn't want it to actually be too bright where you can't see the screen. So it does go up to 1000 nits, just in case people were wondering. 1080p or 1080 by 2340 pixels. The PPI, for the people that need to know that, 403. Now, it does have a Super AMOLED screen. And let me say this about this particular screen that is very alarming and I did not like about this. So when you go to the settings, I remember in the A20, you had the option to actually change the screen modes. This only gives vivid and natural. The A20, which is a really old phone, actually has Super AMOLED options, and the colors just seem to pop a lot more, like they put more effort into their screens. But what I will say is that this does have the option to go from 60 hertz to 120 hertz. So that's something to kind of be aware of when you think about phones. So the screen actually is very good. It looks good for video games. It looks good for YouTube videos. It just comes out very clear. Normally when I play things, I have like 1080p or 720p playback. So it's compatible with most services like Netflix that have higher resolutions and things like that. But do understand that it is going to use more data in that aspect. So let's talk some more tech specs right here. 128 gigs internally is the US version, at least the one that comes with Metro by T-Mobile. They do have different variations where it has 8 gigs of RAM. Some have 6 gigs of RAM. This is the 6 gig version. Some have 256 gigs internally. That's going to cost you a little bit more money, realistically. But again, remember, I actually paid $49 as a new line for this phone, And so with taxes and fees, I was on a $60 plan originally, which I lowered the plan through customer service for a cheaper unlimited plan. But it probably cost me about 140 roughly with taxes, fees, and activation in order to get this phone out of the store, which is a really good price. Now, I've tried 4 games with this, but right now I'm going to tell you the processor first before we get into that. And don't mind me losing in the game because this is just to show you the performance. Android 13, that's what it ships with. It has the One UI 5.1, the Exynos 1380 is what's inside of this. Now, I'll be honest with you. I know there's a lot of people out there that's like, what is that, Ian? What is an Exynos 1380? And I'm going to be honest with you. In terms of benchmark scores, it doesn't score that high on the processor list, meaning when I had the Moto G Stylus 2022, I actually got better performance out of that for gaming than this particular phone, if we're being honest here. It allowed me to play at higher graphical settings also, but it really depends on what you're doing. So to give you an example, the 4 games I played was Pokemon Go, which played perfectly fine. I played, what was the other game called? Honkai Impactors or Honkai Star Rail, the new game that came out. Call of Duty Mobile, of course, you see that right now. And then Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy War of the Vision, which is a tactical Final Fantasy game. And as I played these games, I did have to put them on lower settings for the Call of Duty. This is on high frame rate so that it runs a little bit smoother. But I put the graphical settings on low so that it runs better. Remember, when coming from an iPhone, I don't have any of these issues whatsoever coming from an iPhone. Coming from this, though, it's not a very, I mean, the experience isn't bad, but when we compare it to Apple coming to a mid-tier phone, it is such a dramatic difference that a lot of people are going to have performance issues, and there's nothing you can really do about that, if we're being completely honest. The reaction time of moving and different things just doesn't feel the same like it would on, and this is a Super AMOLED screen, so they claim with a 120 hertz, so it sounds good on paper. But when you compare this to like a S21 FE 5G, which is in the same class in terms of just price tag, honestly, close to it, it doesn't perform better than it. It does take time to get used to using a lower tier phone, in my opinion, but it's not bad. It doesn't play horribly. So for all you gamers out there that want to play different games, this will work for you just fine. And if you're used to mid-tier phones, then this will be a definite upgrade, I'm sorry, stuttering. But if you're coming from an iPhone, if you're coming from an S23, an S22, an S21, an S20, S20 Ultra, a Pixel, you are going to notice that the performance for gaming is a little lackluster for this particular phone. Now, what I will also say is when it comes to productivity, now what I mean by that is, let's say you decide to use Canva or UCut. I use those applications all the time. They're my go-to when it comes to editing applications, editing not songs, but editing videos, piecing them together, adding music to it. It does perform pretty well in that aspect. But here's the bad part: when you do too many things, the phone starts to lag over time. Like, I notice that it gets very laggy from time to time if I'm editing a video in the background, which uses a lot of processing power, and that's where you see that 1380 really fail in that regard, where it should be a lot better and a lot more powerful than what it is. I think that for the price tag of almost $500, depending if you get this unlocked, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't live up to the expectation. And even though I lost this match, it's not a ranked match. I don't really care. It's just to show you the graphical intake of the phone. And to be completely honest with you, what is my team doing? Anyway, let me get back to this video. It did hold well with pictures and videos, which we're going to show you guys in a separate section. But again, these mid-tier processors can only do so much. It might take some time the phone might start overheating or getting warm. I do experience that now. And as a matter of fact, the phone is a little warm right now to the touch, not hot or anything like that, but it still feels good. And the battery life holds up very well because it does have a 5,000 millihertz battery with 25 watt fast charging. If you use a Samsung tip, it will say ultra fast charging. If you use a regular typical 30 watt or 20 watt fast charger, it'll just say fast charging. It is a huge difference between the two if you just leave it on the lock screen and let it charge. I like it. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, if we're being honest here, in terms of processor. I don't have any other issues outside of that. But some people will experience stutter and lag just from locking the phone and then unlocking the phone. Oh, well, I'm in a game right now, so that's why I did that. But look at that. I hit the home button. Look how long it took to do that. And then when I hit the fingerprint, you saw the lag a little bit when it unlocked. That's to be expected for phones at this price point, because what I noticed is that they pack the UI with so much, just like a typical Samsung phone, but they don't really compensate for the fact that it's a lower end device. So with that being said, processor works fine, graphics works fine. Phone, you have to put certain games on low, but it does tend to play most of the current games. I'm sorry, I do apologize. I actually played a 5th game on this when I originally got it, but I don't play the game that much. Diablo Immortal also works for this just fine. If you change the graphical settings, you should be fine. You'll have minimal lag and stutter. The touch is responsive, but you can definitely tell that there's dead spots on the screen when playing certain games that are high intensive, and that can be an issue for you guys that really want to use your phone at its full capacity in terms of gaming. But for everyday use people, you'll love it, especially for the price tag. $3 insurance, and it costs between probably $60 to $100 based on a tier 3, tier 4, to get the phone replaced. So keep that in mind. All right, guys, so this is the camera. Right now, I have this in full HD, 60 frames. Now, like we talked about, I will show you Ultra HD, which I believe falls in the line of 4K. Cameras used to just say 4K, but they say Ultra HD on it. This can only do 30 frames in that aspect, but right now we're in full HD, me to upload videos directly from YouTube. None of the quality didn't suffer when using Android versus Apple. It's a lot like converting using UCut. It made the audio worse in a lot of videos. So it's a life choice that I made. I enjoyed Apple, don't get me wrong, and I still have Apple accessories and devices. It's just that as a primary device, I rather use something that's easy to use, that's affordable, that's under $100 to replace or so through insurance. It's just it's easier for me. I know I'm stuttering, but I'm trying to explain to people that may want this the reasons why I personally use it, and I do it for production reasons. Again, each to each their own. What I would suggest is look at other reviews that give you more in depth for those that are looking to fine tune every little feature to make sure that you have it. But for the average user, this is more than enough. Beyond more than enough. You're going to get 3 to 5 years or whatever it is worth of software updates, at least 3 years. I talk about OS updates, I mean, and it's ideal. You know, obviously there's going to be better phones in between that time. Like every year, there's always going to be a better phone, but it doesn't mean that you have to constantly keep spending that money just because something new comes out. This will be good for you, and I think it's a definite upgrade from the A53 5G. Anyway, with that being said, like and subscribe like always, and I will see y'all in the next video.